Hello everyone. Today we're going to be looking at another opening in rapid style. And this one is going to be the Caro Kann classical variation. So we'll get right into it. I made another video yesterday, uh, and that was a rapid expose on the French defense advanced variation. So if you're not familiar with my method, just hop on board in this video and we'll get right into it. What I usually like to do is, and I recommend to students, is that they look at, when they're first learning an opening, look at miniature games, right? From whatever side that you're trying to learn about. So, for instance, here we're going to look at the Caro Kann classical variation from the white perspective. So, what you want to do is look at a bunch of miniature games, uh, preferably move, under 30 moves. The less moves, the better. Because what you want to do is you want to see what happens when white has his way. When things go perfectly right for white. That's what you're looking for. Okay, you're not gonna learn too much from looking at a 80 move game between Magnus Carlsen and Vishy Anand, right? When you're first trying to learn the opening, right? You want to get a basic overview of general tactics, themes, uh, in the position. And the best way to see that is basically when one side is just overwhelmed and ran over. So here, for example, we're looking at this game from Berlin, 1902, between Heinrich Wolf and Boris Kagan, two strong players in the Caro Kann. And what you want to do is, again, not get too deep into these games, right? But you just want to get a quick overview of the type of piece play, development, etc. That the white side is playing. So here you can already see rapid castling, knight on e5. You see the space advantage already from white, and right here already a tactic arises on the f7 square. Knight takes f7, king takes f7, rook e1. Why is this possible? Because of black's lack of development and coordination, right, of his pieces. Those two things allow this sacrifice to take place, along with, of course, white's superior development and coordination. So this is something you will write down, okay? That although black's position looks quite solid, that sometimes if he falls behind in development, his pieces aren't coordinated, that his white squares are vulnerable to sacrifice, namely f7, if not protected adequately. Right, gf6, queen f3, and black is in trouble here. Rook takes e6. Now you have the discovery threatened. Knight f5, and you can just see the white pieces just swarming the position before black even gets to um, get involved in the game. Knight b6, and these are the type of games that you want to look at because you get to see exactly what white wants to do. Now later on, as you progress, then you want to go and look at games that are more competitive so that you can see the proper black defense here. Now here white played rook takes f6, rook takes e7, is winning also. Um, White took a real simple approach, just exploiting the light squares, and that would be a note that you would want to jot down mentally or physically, the importance of the light square bishop in the position, the removal of black's light square bishop, and also the preservation of yours in certain positions. But you can see in this game how powerful white's light square bishop is. Just the total domination, the squares. And this game was over, and immediately you would just take little notes from that. Notice the open E file, the general attack on the king side, right? Due to the knight having that outpost on E5. Those would be general themes in the position. We're gonna look at another one. Here's another old school game. Mikhail Shigorin with the white pieces. versus a player named Loki. This is from Kiev, 1903. Again, we're gonna go through it rapid fire fast, just like I would do if I was studying on my own. And now here you see the bishop just coming to oppose the black bishop on g6, and this is what you usually see nowadays. d6. Game is pretty even. Again, the emphasis is just on classical development and rapid development by white, and also the occupation of the e file. So you want to try to hold back the moves e5 from black, and c5 if possible. c4, castle, and already you can see a general configuration of the type of setup you want as white. Again, you see black trying to set up for move e5, and you see white trying to set up for an attack on the king side. Now, so far, black has been defending well, but again, you want to know that, okay, my general theme is to use my space advantage in the center and my active piece development and piece play to conduct an attack on the king side. That's my ultimate goal in this opening. That black is a little bit cramped in space, and that you want to keep black cramped and his pieces awkward and uncoordinated, and use all of these factors to start this attack. And you can see, as in the first game, you see Shigorin slowly bringing his pieces over to the king side. And now, even with this trade off, the trade on e4 brings the rook into play. Again, black is following some principles here that he's trading off the opponent's attacking pieces. So here he's still holding on, but unfortunately you see the pieces still kind of hovering around his position. And now black starts to lose the thread in the position a little bit, and he goes for his break, c5. And unfortunately for him, this is an error. Probably a move like bishop d6 was better, not really trying to break out of the position, maybe even f5. But here he does c5, which leads to d5, and we can see that the king becomes exposed here. And after he takes d5, just simply rook takes e8, and the game is over. And you might say, what's wrong with rook takes e8? Well, the problem is this square right here. So after rook takes e8, then just queen takes d5, and you should be able to see that it's going to be mate shortly. So just like that, the game is over because black tried to break out too quickly. Okay, so again, the themes are starting to become repetitive already. You see black, sort of cramped in a position, although very solid, and this cramped nature of his position often the time will expose black to tactical blows. So you can see that just making an innocent looking move like c5 in this position, he's lost already. So white must constantly be thinking of making sure that he gets rapid piece development, sets up for his king side attack, right? Takes over the e file, like as you saw in the last two games, okay, and prevent black from breaking effectively, and that's the key, breaking effectively with the move e5 in c5. Let's look at another one. Again, two unknown players, relatively obscure players, Stoklaska, the white pieces, and Mlodozic from 1907. And again, these games, although the players are unknown, the quality is good enough so that you can learn the general themes. Again, you see the bishop opposing the other bishop, and this is like what we see in a more modern sense, where the bishops are traded off, the light square bishops, that is. Castle, bishop d6, and now we see this early attack trying to exploit the fact that the bishop is gone to d6. But again, you see the same themes here. White focusing his attack on the king side, and notice he uses his pieces to provoke reactions out of black here. And this is why you see this miniature. Because you might say this play is terrible. Yes, yes, it is. That's why it's a miniature game. But again, if you look at the white side, you can see how your pieces are supposed to be developed. So here, black tries to mitigate his play on the king side and weakening that area by castling queen side. Bishop takes d6, queen takes d6. Knight hops into g7 with the attack, double attack on the e6 square. Notice again the constant theme that comes up is the attack down the e file. And these are things that you just take mental notes of or you write them down. Queen b3, and you see the pile up on e6. And then e6 just falls unceremoniously. Knight c5, and for the first time you are seeing what white does when black castles on the opposite side of the board, or you're seeing white play on the other side of the board for the first time. So the utilization of the c5 square comes into mind. But again, you're seeing some similar themes with the domination of the e file. Once again, black tries to hold on, and after king d7, just simply rook d8. And the idea is to distract the king away from the protection of the queen. Overwork the king comes back here, and the black queen is captured. One more old school game. This is from 1907. Trey Ball versus Rozovsky. Again, we'll rapidly go through. And you probably, if you're watching this video, you're probably, and you're not familiar with this opening, you're probably picking up already on the themes. So here you notice with the rapid advance of the knight to e5, white often shows his intentions not to trade bishops here. He wants to keep, instead of just trading these two bishops off, he wants to keep the pieces on. Knight d7. Queen e2. Knight takes e5. And now here, black alleviates some pressure by trading pieces. That's one of the principles that we learned early in our chess development, is when you cramp trade pieces. Well, he gets to trade a pair of knights, but he puts a pawn on e5, which is more of a long-term stressful situation on a black structure, because that pawn being there hinders development. As you can see, the bishop can no longer go to d6, the knight can't go to f6, so the pawn has to be black has to develop around the pawn, which is can be a little annoying, and again can lead, if black is not careful, can lead to the symptom of the pieces not being coordinated. And we already saw what happens when your pieces are not coordinated and your opponent has good development, is that sometimes your opponent can wind up sacrificing material and attacking your king, because you can't work up any kind of meaningful counterplay. Again, we see the same themes. White building up on the king side, pressure against e6. So notice that even if there's a pawn or a piece on the e file, white will often still build up against these light squares, f7 and e6. Queen takes e5. So he just gives up the pawn. Why does he give up the pawn? For time, for rapid piece development. Okay, so he's sacrificing the pawn, but look at white's development. And now black is falling victim to not being developed and coordinated. Winds up giving up the exchange. And now, just like that, black is pretty much busted, as the black king falls victim here. and just opening up everything. And the game ended in 25 moves. So now what I'm gonna do is we'll just go look at some modern games real quick. And by now I'm sure you had the point. We'll just look at some strong grandmasters of this era, and show you that the same type of stuff can take place. This was a blitz game in 2007 between Peter Leko and Alexei Dreyev, who was 26.07 at the time. Leko was 27.55. So it's Leko with the white pieces. But you'll see the same ideas. Of course, it's a more modern approach. I have to trade the bishops off here, and you should be convinced that even in today's strong grandmasters, you still see miniature games like this. But notice the same themes, right? Rapid development from white. Black is cramped but solid, right? This is the modern approach again, trying to trade pieces. White avoids the trading of queens at this moment. Again, same themes. Notice the attack on the E file, concentration on E6 square, occupation of the E5 square with the knight. All right, so it doesn't matter if it's 100 years ago. It's now the themes, the general themes, are still the same. F3. Okay, and now B takes C4. Queen H5 is possible. Take this pawn. But again, you have to be careful of pawn grabbing, especially being behind in development in this opening, as we have seen, because it can lead to some nasty attacks by white. You can see here that black would just be losing a rook after that. So B takes C4, and again, pawn grabbing here by Dreyev leaves the queen B7, and the problem here is that if black tries to castle, this bishop is left hanging. So now you see the rook is attacked, and he can't really castle here. And right, just like that, from him just getting greedy and grabbing the pawn, the position collapses. And just like that, the game was over. Again, that was a rapid game, but just to illustrate the themes, it's excellent, because again, you get to see what white wants here. So again, you see the development, you see the knight planted on E5, you see the occupation of the E file by the rooks. Again, you see the um, pressure on E6, right? Even though it's in the X-ray fashion with the queen on B3, there's always pressure on F7 and E6 here. And another important thing in this opening is you have to be willing to sacrifice pawns and keep a keen eye out on when black is not properly developed and his pieces are uncoordinated, as you see here, right? So he grabs this pawn and immediately, boom, queen B7. Okay, so another one. This game is between uh, Gregory Kaidanov and with the white pieces, and Alexander Ivanov. Okay, this is from the U.S. Championships 2007. Again, we'll rapidly run through this real quick. Again, modern approach. Here we see the bishop coming to B4. Provoke C3. Bishop goes back. Knight E6 again. Do I have to explain again? Knight coming to E5. All similar themes. Doesn't matter what century. There's just little nuances. But once you get the generalities down, then it becomes clear. So here we see again, this is two strong grandmasters. So you're seeing more of a, even though this is a miniature, you're seeing more correct play here. Again, black being cramped, trades pieces. Knight takes e4, queen takes e4, queen c7, king b1, just getting off the c file. Rook a d8, and now again the theme of attacking on the king side. Okay, so black has to come up with something quick before he's overwhelmed. Knight f6, driving the queen back. Knight d5, bishop drops back. There's the break, right? Remember I was saying that black would like to play either c5 or e5 here, but black always has to be careful with these breaks because the timing has to be precise, because a lot of times the break will come and then it's not the right time. Black's not coordinated properly or something like that, and he'll come under heavy fire. Here, black is developed pretty much as the best as he can here, so he goes for his break. Unfortunately for him, white's attack is already well advanced on the king side, so g5 is a no-brainer there. Black doesn't want to open up his king side or even answer that, because usually in opposite wing attacks, it's whoever gets there first. So he plays c takes d4, c takes d4 is played. Now h takes d5, bishop takes d5, and already black is in some trouble here, because white's attack is just first. All right. And just nice, simple chess by Kaidanov here. Of course, if black could just make it to the endgame, he can attack those weak pawns. But unfortunately for him, he's not going to make it there. So after this natural looking move, queen b6, right, attacking the weak d pawn, right, also threatening knight c3. What more can you ask, right, out of a move? However, it doesn't work. Queen d2 stops all of those threats. f6 is played. Right? Is he winning a piece? Well, he can win the piece, but it's going to cost a lot. F takes e5, bishop takes e7, dark square bishop is removed, knight takes e7, and then the Saints come marching in. Rook takes g7 check, king h8, and this queen g5. And yeah, that's a rough game right there. And the game is going to be over shortly. Okay, so that'll do it for this particular video. I hope you picked up on the major themes in this opening. Right, we went over a few miniature games, and just to recap, just remember the occupation of the e5 square, either with the knight, right, or the pawn. Um, if you want to preserve the piece play, you put your bishop on c4, knight on e5, and then bishop on c4, or you could trade the light square bishops off, right? Those are two strategies. Remember the general theme of attacking on the king side as white. Rapid piece development, and also keep an eye on the e file, namely the e6 square, and look for opportunities to sacrifice on f7 at times. Also look for opportunities to sacrifice pawns, especially when your opponent's pieces are not fully developed or coordinated, as we saw in the Leko Dreyev game. And also remember, most of all, to to attack with vigor once you start attacking. Because, for example, in position like this, if white missteps and misplays this position, he can easily go into a bad endgame. One of the advantages to the Caro Kann and these Caro Slav type structures is that black's structure pawn structure is very solid, and if he gets to an endgame, oftentimes he has good chances. As you can see here, if this was an endgame scenario, black would probably have a nice advantage, or definitely would have a good advantage just due to pawn weaknesses. Um, but again, I suggest that you study if you want to learn this game. Like just go over like a bunch of rapid games, play some blitz, play a lot of blitz games, bullet games, just get the feeling. And then I would do the same thing with the black side, right? I would look for short games from the black side, and then you can see what the defense looks like. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that video. Subscribe and comment and all of that. And if you have any openings that you want to go over real quick, we'll look at them together, and I'll see you in the next video.